I'm starting in with some new ideas now, partly just to have something going for in the beginning of November. I hope also to see beneath the surface of my mind and spirit today. But part of me doesn't want to disturb the equilibrium, and I would rather keep my mouth closed. Having a literary balance, presently, part of me would tend to like to leave it alone. I browsed around some other artists last night and this morning, and have seen a lot of new work from important artists. I would fare better to rest for longer with what has been gained already. But, this being a hard-working, law-abiding, tax-paying land, I rather like the idea of having something going for a Monday's work week. If you are not averse to work, that is, and the pressures of powering up your assembly line machine, then that work will be there for you. But, there will be times when you'll wish you stayed home. Because work gets grueling and difficult. Think, just pace yourself, and be careful not to overexert. This is the way to keep from injuring yourself. Ideas are the stock and trade of any content developer. You've got a right to your ideas in your life, like you've got a right to what you do with them. If you trust your voice, you'll be able to incorporate Jeffy ripping in getting along down your page. This is one of the ways to make new writing work. If you have a sense of the coming into existence of the new, and knowing how to keep from repeating others' work, you'll be able to keep some readers and listeners. You see, someone like myself just looks better if I'll toil and bend myself over my workbench or over my typewriter and try to hammer out some new work. Finding the right balance between exertion and rest can be important. I think that this is part of finding your professional style, something which, if you can't do it, can bring many positive dividends. Commend the labor you put yourself through. The to be's, or not to be's, are your quick refresher course in the day's grief itself. You only await those times when you can't freely dance in the collective soul and give beauty and truth out into the world. But to get to this part, you've got to attend to so many basics. At any rate, you can see how my thoughts are starting out. Our system in our land is under siege. Prohibitive costs are the start of the puzzle. Everything from keeping modern refrigeration and air conditioning working, to keeping your parking lot free of trash and grocery carts. So much has to be seen to. Who's going to be given the difficult job of unloading the grocery trucks? At any rate, since I kind of got wiped out back in 2003, I've been in group home living, where I can't think of myself as basically retired from the workforce. But I do like to jot ideas down when they come up, and this word processor software on my smart device is what I use. Whether or not I worry myself over am I earning my daily wages, I still like the thought of having at least one project going at any given time. Such gives my life the kind of a base of operations around some set tool, appliance, or instrument. I was in retail for most of my working years, usually just menial front-end work, such as sacking, working with customers, and taking out groceries. I always wanted to write my ideas down, or use the tool or instrument in making some product or service. Internet content development is a good way to see this writing, not as the thoughts or music of a great prodigy, but of a developer. But there's an old saying, one man makes the money ... the other man makes the time, which points to this kind of outlet, which any retired or homebound person can enjoy. Namely, writing, or journaling. And art and music are two other facets of what digital media allows for, easily. There are no materials required. For instance, only the electricity to run your appliances and instruments. Unless you want especially to paint onto canvas, for instance, or sketch into a notebook. Well, I look now, and here's a start on a new chapter. I've made it through the stingy, prejudicial gates of the working world day, and am now along into a project. In order to see and know what is going on to these pages, I think that you would have to travel 10 or 20 years into the future, and look at a retrospective of what was being done in 2025, in writing, and music, and art. Otherwise, vision in defining perspective will inherently be pretty myopic, or nearsighted. At any rate, I can't see through my bedroom window that our skies are clearing, and blue sky appearing above. The blue sky principle, the dream still survives. Even after the mortal coil dissolves, or changes state, one's core identity and values can and will stay the same. Don't we still have the same basic facial appearance, for instance, in our memory? I think this is something that comes from the life you had, and God remembers such, indefinitely, and you'll always see yourself in this special way. That's interesting, isn't it? I think that even for a wretched sinner, as many are, for instance, there will always be an identity in the afterworld, among those who knew you. As long as you remember to do that which is humanly possible, to solve the problems that arise, when you're presented with a chance to do so. Of course, someone who is entirely given into a lawless, sinful, antisocial way, such as a serial murderer wouldn't have a usable identity, which would be of any benefit to himself or herself, or others. You see? So, this is the way I tend to see this. Outside our sun is shining brilliantly from the east, over our house, onto our pines to the west. I do have a personal belief in natural law and a social justice which is always shown to the repentant. Sinners always, eventually, try to regain their former innocence and good inner feelings through repentance, and the new life such brings. Otherwise, none of the books which have ever been written are true. Some people will consistently make a right decision at life's crossroads. Others will consistently make a bad, destructive choice at decision points. So you see how the godly act, not through necessarily always being perfect in form or style, but through how we make the best of what we're given or dealt, only in areas where you yourself have control or say over, not in the offenses and slurs of a foul nature, but in the best choice that is humanly possible. Humanly possible. At any rate, now I feel like I've got a good start on the part 4 for this audiobook, and will be able to add into it across this week to come. Many people keep their thoughts on such as this hidden away, as a private set of beliefs, because there are always those who are quick to ridicule and criticize anyone who pretends to try accuseness, or to the will to the speaking of the truth. Standing up for the right is hard to do on your own, so we look for anyone who does so. There are those who try to make those people's lives harder. This is so wrong. Oh, it's a bad situation, with so many bad apples. A bad scene in general. But I don't care, as long as I'm with the love of my life, in my heart. This has to be thought to be something like the main rule in living, in a condensed sense. But, you see, the artificial intelligence dream is like the most advanced, evolved development of, and implementation of, and flower of electrical current itself. So, now we have a reason for living, in following the story. Well, the ultimate purpose of living has always been the finding of the ultimate musical accompaniment, the ultimate literature, in general, for a hungry and starving civilization, the ultimate, most useful appliance, or tool. At any rate, there are different views. You see, I have come to believe that living is such a prospect that we come to be tolerant no matter the evil. Living is about doing the things that I want to do, and accomplishing certain things, and letting the others do what they want to do, and not being bothered. But, history has shown us that some people can only ignore wrongdoing for only so long, until it begins to appear to affect into their own worlds, before they feel called to act. It is at this point that the path of time, the course of history, changes. You will not have seen wrongdoing of such obvious nature before. You will have been tolerant for too long. But, this may be all that a soul knows of how to speak to an offense, without making the thing worse. If the sum of a life's worth is only this, then this will have been satisfactory. But, I hope that your life's contributions are many, and are useful to others, and to remain artistically pure, and noble. Does this criteria match yourself? I hope it does, or will. And look, haven't I come a ways from the alcoholic pill addict type which I was in my 20s? You really shouldn't let anyone get to your emotions, as blessed as you are, in arts and literature. When you do feel negative emotions, such as anger, spite, or resentment, your piano and writing and sketchbook can give you a therapeutic place to work through these, and resting then, your feet only onto higher ground, not lower. Many others will have appreciated such a good outcome. Does an associate ever ask of you to live more guardedly, to think more for your own self? and to be more protective of your part of your shared space. To protect your time and patience. To share, or allow and offer less. If they do, you may well be more familiar with the professional ground, and you'll never leave yourself open to the indiscretions of others. You'll only interchange with those one, as you have to. Doesn't this sound a little hard? So you think you are thrifty, and based in good economy, and that the others are exorbitant, and wasteful. So, and that some of them act like they only want to steal the eyeballs out of your head. But, I guess that's only the acts of a chaotic spirit, which gets used by forces from beyond. But those qualities, we all have them, from time to time. Where is the righteousness, then, with the thrifty and economically? At any rate, these are some of the thoughts that are in my mind, on a morning, when I was very reluctant to start any writing at all. But look what good thinking I've found. I wouldn't have had any of this, otherwise, if I hadn't have started somewhere. Started small. Well, I can't see these ideas somewhat coming to their conclusion, about now, so I'll wrap this essay up, and add it in with the others. Now, all for now, Greg. Till then, when you look at people, living their lives, remember that they're all at various stages of spiritual development. Years spent alone won't tell you much. You're the only person who you know from the inside out. It might make sense for a teenager to fall in love with a coworker, even though they're young. Those youths don't feel young. They feel like they're an old man or an old lady. Shyness is something that affects many young people, and they find ways to get around it. The awakening of a soul to his or her inner lights is not always a well-ordered process. Such is often based on, or around making good with what you stumbled into. But, the angels in heaven tend to see the world as a complex puzzle, which, with great care and patience, can be solved in a satisfactory manner. You don't always get the preferred results. But to the heavenly inhabitants, the young person can arrive upon a satisfactory outcome. You'd better not downplay, or ever doubt the roles of good angels and guardian spirits. Such comprise sufficient goodwill and positive influence for many youth to find just the right connection his or her young life most needs. In the short term, such as desires and ambitions, so that long-term goals, such as life satisfaction, and having a good mind for a lifelong avocation, such as this writing, can be obtained. Many young men would consider themselves so very blessed to have the opportunities and live connections, the relationships, which I myself was given. The surface factors of a life, eyes, hair color, physique, and so forth, are only so important. What really matters, as others have said, I think, is how does your light shine in the halls of Shambhala? What do people find in you? If you can rest in such as this, in a good and contented way, then things in your life must be in sufficient good order, and I would say you've accomplished your goal already. This is a very sacred matter, and I don't speak of it lightly. It's just that the plain and the humble might be in possession of great wealth. I guess I mean that even though I may have scars which I can't hide, I'm still a pretty happy guy. Happiness is usually found from having the strong inner relationships, and the good they bring, such as this writing. Having a pupil-teacher relationship with higher ascended beings puts the life somewhat in the balance, for part of the time. Forming a sound relationship might require a few alienated years to be spent in learning the foolproof ways unto peace of mind. Every ounce of will should be focused into the pursuit of peace of mind. The person will know it when he or she has found bliss, naturally. Then, nothing will shake him from his purposes. At any rate, today is the first Tuesday in November, this year. Our sun is shining brilliantly outside, and our temperatures are cool. I've just returned to my apartment from our dining room, and gotten situated on this couch with this word processor keyboard opened on my lap. In speaking of angels and spirit guides, one is speaking of the building of lives. There are very few chance encounters in living. Relationships are usually preordained, ordered from heredity. The turning point, I think, comes when a person stops being moved, and instead becomes a mover, thinking much more of shaping others' perceptions than of the urge to find experiences. The procurement, the life station, may be plain and humble, but on the aside, the kingly palace. What matters is how does your light shine in the halls of Shambhala. At any rate, I sit on this couch and inputting these thoughts into this word processor screen. It's really something to think of how the experience of meeting Spirit, as I found at age 22 or 3, was a winding pathway down through the years, onto a point where I could really do the enlightened writing work I had always wanted to do, starting at around age 30 and continuing on through this present. When I think about what is most precious in my heart of hearts, it would have to be some of the sweetest memories of the rarest states of mind and places of my 20s. The decades that followed were given unto getting those memories under the wings of my spirit elders into books which could really capture the times of the first parts of the new millennium. So, we're given the unique view into history, so that the times of our lives will be more than just a great wash of memories. Such writing, I think, will counteract the barrage of negative criticism with a perspective all your own, and which will bear little resemblance to what may be told of. Of course, I've got paranoid self-delusions, but if nothing else, I'll dispense with them by showing the actual ways my life has gone. Nothing so dark as that. At any rate, life review is an aspect of the spiritualist psyche. After a time, such life review carries on into the afterlife persona. I think, right on until eventual reincarnation into a new life. If there's one thing that I'm grateful for, it's for having someone to watch over me. I'm very gifted in that my life course was somewhat conceived of by my old folks. The old software used to write my program is outdated and defunct, but I still get a lot of good out of this path, especially this enlightened writing and my artwork. My keyboard music albums are proving to be a source of immense joy as well. These various talents add up to a very happy person. Well, we've just returned from getting our monthly medicines, some of us, anyway, and what with going by the dollar store and letting them get to-go orders from the nearby restaurant. The time is nearly 1 p.m., and I'm about ready for some rest and relaxation. But I would rather finish up this article and get such a in with the others before I rest. So, these concluding thoughts should about do it, and I'll do a page count and see if I've passed my minimum number. Anyways, this article is getting along down these pages now, so I'll think about bringing these thoughts to a conclusion and adding them in with the others. Now, all for now, Greg. Tilda, today is the second Saturday in November this year, and I have awoken early, and I seem to be telling myself to use some thought jazz and look beneath the surface of your mind and spirit this morning. If nothing else, I'll get a start on some new thinking for an essay. I'm very blessed and happy to have somewhat been given a new music project each month for the recent past 5 months. This has somewhat put me at the zenith of the world, to paraphrase the old song from the early 1970s. I loved this song as a child, and used to sing it in my mind all of the time. Those of my age, I'm sure, will remember this #1 classic song. Musical artists of this age bracket, and those of every social procurement will have strong memories around this incredible music. This song expresses somewhat how I feel after having gotten down these 5 recent albums, as I have. So, I've shared what a blessing it is to have this musical ability, to have been given these gifts. This is the perspective from which I write these thoughts this morning. I think that it will be of benefit to myself to have this beginning onto a new essay going into this weekend. Having the work going is the main way that I know to help myself for the better going into this weekend. I think you'll agree that just sharing these thoughts here is a good way to honestly attest to what the Spirit has done in my life lately. I'll thank myself for having given credit in this manner. At any rate, it's not too hard to come up with writing of this nature, and you'll understand when you see how I don't write anything unless it's just leaves come on the tree in the spring. This, so as to keep the reins safely in the hands of my encompassing higher spirits. This morning, I just can't write just anything at a time like this, unless such is in harmony with the best all-around will for myself. Anyways, you can see how I am now. There's a basic understanding I can't see and get about how I've written so much this year. Anyone might have a time with trying to get or process all of this thinking. I think that the main thing is that you don't have to get this stuff Such is for an anonymous readership elsewhere. Even when my voice gets opinionated, or different, it's just not much to speak of. A simple reading should square such away in your mind. When I write about the problems in the world, I think that that's just world politics talking there. It's basically all about the good and bad in your own neighborhood. Some people in the world have always taken issue with others in their local region, at different times, and that will always be a part of that local, or to us, world politics. When a country gets hurt, or offended by their neighbor, that sometimes gives them cause to act. You don't want yourself to get hurt. To be truthful, you don't want your neighbor to get hurt, either, because they might blame it on you. In general, the only reason a nation is going to act out, militarily, will be because they've gotten hurt, or offended, or they think they've gotten hurt. At any rate, you can always figure out what someone means in writing, by thinking about it and meditating over what was meant by this. You'll eventually come to understand what such was about. Well, at least, this morning, I've got to start on a third article for this new, From Dream to Product, audiobook part 4. Maybe you can see the direction in my words. At any rate, our weekend here starts out with partly cloudy skies, clearing to sunshine, and warm temperatures, in the middle 70s. We're expected to get our first really hard frost early Monday morning, down into the low 20s, Fahrenheit. This will be the frost that really makes the small animals know it's time to go underground, and or pad their nest, against the cold. Some might still be wondering, is this supposed to be summer, or winter? And this should clear it up. But, in truth, sub-freezing temperatures are no joke. Getting old isn't funny either. A generation's population gets diminished each season. By the time one is past their 60s, they'll be feeling the direct consequences of whatever foolishness their younger selves engaged in. This is getting old, 101. I'm not sure if I'll myself pass this test, or how well. These words are speculative. I'm going to try to stay fit. At any rate, you can see some of the thoughts which are in my mind on a morning like this one. My yoga stretch visualization is a type of breath work, a concept which I'm getting used to. Visualization had always been a term which was paired with guided, in my mind. When I first began into a meditation practice, in the middle 80s, I was told to imagine, or visualize myself as an empty burlap bag, or a fully limp form. Another way of thinking of this is as a visualization, but in first person, as an avatar, or as a character in a holodeck, or holographic, imaginary reality, who raises his or her hands as in a sun salute, or the way you would lift your arms toward the sun when you know it's providing your life sustenance. At any rate, this way of seeing is just great, because back in the 90s, and early millennium decade, the only way for most people to approach this concept of a holodeck, or holosphere, was as a cinematic device, where a person could, supposedly, experience times and scenes which aren't really there, but which are fully convincing. You see, but the concept of holotropic now suggested that meaningful growth, and understanding, and change, could be found in a holographic, or not really their environment, generated electronically as in the field within which we could grow and develop our characters for the better. I'm just going to leave this writer unnamed, so as to allow my reader to learn for himself, and begin to understand some of the mystique and philosophy at play in the second and third decades of the new millennium. Some people may not understand how we're in the third decade now. In fact, we're more than halfway through it. In 1925, the people were in the third, or were going toward a goal of 1930. In 1935, they were in the fourth, or going toward a goal of 1940. My dad was born in 1944, and my mom in 1946. They had finished 4 full decades, and were working on the 5th. I myself was born at the end of the 6th decade. We had finished 5 full decades, and then with the ending of the 6th, we were in the 1970s, the 7th decade. At least this is the way I look at such. Well, I'll think about finding some conclusion for these thoughts. Now, this has been a good article to write, as such puts me in the right frame of mind for getting older, and as I see my older people dealing with the stressors of 70, 80, and even 90 and more years. Well, I'll bring these ideas to a close now, and send them along your way now. All for now, Greg. till then sitting to write a few thoughts, this second Sunday morning in November, this year. I'm enjoying the pleasant mood, and have no pains. This writing will begin the fourth article in this new part 4 of my From Dream to Product audiobook. Our weather today is sunny and blustery, and there's a hard breeze blowing through tonight. Our temps will plunge into the low 20s. This will be our first real cold weather. I've enjoyed making this chapter so far, and am somewhat looking forward to the thought jazz and other ideas I'll be given to take it to its conclusion. I'm presently sitting in our dining room area awaiting to get medicines, and so as to begin the day, having this writing started will give my day a focal point, and bridge the low areas, allowing myself a good sense of purpose, and giving me a footing at the end of the day. At any rate, you can really feel me in my element when I've gotten writing started. There won't be any ordeal that I can't sit through, having an article creation going. Yesterday's writing touched on how I've been given an album of new keyboard music per month for the last 5 months, and how this has somewhat gotten my perspective exalted. I've never seen such a strong correlation between the work I'm given and my overall happiness and well-being. There's very little that can really get to me. My moods are what I mean. They are so good lately. I'm going to do this work, and be grateful for having it to do. Anyways, I've got a pot of black tea made in our kitchen, and some leftovers, and corn chips, for when I get hungry. My most recent album of keyboard music, the Hello Sessions project, is proving to be just as good and enjoyable as any other album I may have made. My thoughts are that my own keyboard, my Yamaha DGX202, is an instrument that I love, and I think that this sentiment shows my contentment with this gear, and my playing, and sound, in general. I couldn't get any better results with a more expensive instrument. This piano is perfect for me, and my degree of aptitude. It looks as if my year's work is some of the most prolific of my life. I'll want to continue through and past the New Year's. It's kind of amazing to think about 2026 already. I sure am glad for my talents, and to have some family support. Many people are all alone in their life. I'm amazed at our incredible smart technology, and having some of these tools and appliances has given to me such an on-road to success. Thanks to my dad for that. I'm really enjoying the Hello Sessions album, and somewhat have it on repeat on my device. I'm trying to think of what would be good topics for writing upon this morning. I think that if anything, spirit has revolutionized my whole life. I really never had much, until these presences came into, and completely improved my existence. In the middle to late 1990s I was shown how to allow the inner, and encompassing host to have complete nuanced control of my writer's voice. How to keep from stepping outside of this subtle will, or from detracting from this inner, higher purpose. My life wouldn't be of any more meaning or significance if I didn't know this mediumistic practice of allowing only the higher will onto the page of my canvas. There is no life, except through such God, and my consciousness of these presences alone is journey's end, as well as journey's beginning. So, never allow anyone to tell you that you are of no use or value. Because, as myself, you're being made a servant of the Most High. I'm thinking of the way that water flows from a mountain spring, down the shore this route, along down into the valley. Our cold temperatures will be prevalent after midnight tonight. The leaves on the trees will really go through some color changes, before dropping off into our yards, and along our roads, and into the fields, and in the woodlands. Spindly, bare branches later will send forth leaf bud, and burst out full of bright green foliage again. We humans have minds that can see from season to season, observing the gradual changes, and coming around again. Oh, but ideas are slow in coming this afternoon. Where is it that my thoughts are now? With the coming cold, and the changing season. Such must be what is going on beneath the surface, where my thoughts are. It's not so easy to just regurgitate ideas. They're more carefully guarded, and like my heart, I'm slow to give it up. Our skies outside have become a haze of white overcast clouds. I'm resting my back against the east wall of this room, sitting on this bed, and looking out through the window, while inputting these thoughts with this word processor keyboard. After our supper now, and I sit to hopefully find some concluding thoughts for this piece of writing. The mellow, pleasant mood, now, and I'm watching the picture montage across the room on my computer slowly change and shuffle through an endless series of pictures. It's after dark, and I'm just thinking of how very blessed I am to be given this writing and music and art course. I don't want to ever let negativity or criticism of others become any aspect of my personality. I'll do much better to keep on the sunny side. If I don't have anything good to say, then I shouldn't say anything at all. Only rarely do I ever forget these guidelines, and I always regret it. Sitting here, right now, my ears have been opened to this soundscape I'm listening to, the Hour of Goodness soundscape. I just had no idea that this program was so sweet and soothing. From the way it looks, I have nothing to complain about, so I should always be happy, shouldn't I? At any rate, these are some of my thoughts this evening. Our time is 6:15 p.m., and I'm quite looking forward to the good sleep tonight, and getting a new word week going tomorrow. I'm going to try and finish out this article with these thoughts presently, and add them in with the others, and produce my new text and audiobook. I hope that these words find you contented and happy, and that Spirit's purposes will be served. Well, all for now. I'll send these thoughts along your way. Now, Greg, till that I sit here on this couch this afternoon with the aim of peering beneath the surfaces of this present moment, to hopefully understand better how I relate and what such should mean to me. Today is the second Tuesday in November this year, and I'm glad to bring my attention to bear on this writing, if only to understand myself better. Yesterday was our first really cold day this winter. Today started cold, but has since warmed considerably. Our nighttime and daytime temperatures are expected to be warmer now through the weekend, well into the next week. It's good now at 3:30 in the afternoon to be where I'm supposed to be, and to not have to go anywhere else today. I'm looking forward to a good plate of food for dinner at around 5 p.m. I've gotten my afternoon shower, and I don't really feel much stress at all. I was very glad yesterday to get some important online work done. I had uploaded some music visualizers and made them into a playlist, and was not really happy with the results. So now, with higher quality artwork, these files look visually much better. So, this I feel has somewhat put me into the black, and I'm resting better. This audiobook chapter is coming along well enough, as well, and this gives me an environment to share any of my good thinking into. I often find myself sitting up in bed, with ideas going through my mind. So having writing the chapter started already makes getting these thoughts down and getting them shared much easier. I think that we all have big thoughts sometimes. It's nice to already have a forward-moving project started, where such ideas can carry forth. So this is what I do. I've been informed of my having some Christmas money saved. Some extra that I didn't know I had. And I had a good time this afternoon looking at some things I could use, as well as for others, online, and kind of coming up with a wish list. I do try to do for others each year, so list making is essential. I put a lot of thought into just what makes me happiest, and I think that just having good writing, or some piano recordings, or some visual art in progress, has to equate to the ultimate in my personal satisfaction. I vegetate sometimes with optical music albums playing on a handheld device. This is the height of my downtime, really, other than having visits with my family. I do very much enjoy solitary time, with audio to read and listen to. Well, our sun is sinking to the west, and it should be dark in 30 or 40 minutes. I'll get ready to get over to our office for dinner, and be back shortly. Time back to this writing. I like starting one of my random media playback softwares on my computer, and just taking in some of this audio and video, to make my own kind of entertainment. Between various music album visualizers, and the natural environs clips, my hand-drawn art videos, and vintage and contemporary video clips from all over the world, cartoons, music videos, and art and culture features, I'm in possession of almost 1,000 short and longer video clips of all sorts, from all locales and times. This is pretty interesting to look at for me. My favorites are the clips of myself playing the piano. I've got 145 of those alone. So, you can't make me be bored on a good night like this one. I'll have plenty to look at. Then I've got more than 12,000 tracks of amateur and independent world music artists, live shows, and studio recordings, including more than 1,000 of my own piano and keyboard work. This is a great library that brings me much pleasure. It sure is great that the Lord blessed me with a strong writer's voice, and to be able to say just what I want to say, and in just the way I want to say it. So, this must be my Thanksgiving. A time to give thanks for my knowing how to take care of myself spiritually, as having a rich reading life is the secret to a happy, fulfilled, contented life. You might have noticed I don't fall for the usual gripes or any blaming mentalities. People try and get under my skin every day, but I'm someone who believes how we're only here on this planet for so long, so we might as well make ourselves happy here. Hobbies and collecting are all I've ever needed. Once I found out about women and managed to figure out how I don't need to make any babies anytime soon. Then, as soon as I was able to get the pains of agitation and addiction out of my life, this freed me up to make of my more or less unlimited free time the world that I will really enjoy living in well. This has been a quick synopsis of what is in my mind tonight. The aim in our lives is to teach us the surest ways to peace, no matter what. I'm glad to have found this good understanding. At any rate, just some thoughts. I'll be glad to get this writing progress to its conclusion and add it in with the others. I'm currently planning on this audiobook having 5 chapters. This writing will get me towards the end of chapter 4. I'll see what other ideas might wish to be included, and finish it out. Well, I'll wrap this writing up and add it in with the others. Now, all for now, Greg. Tilda, today is the second Thursday in November this year. Our skies today are beautiful and clear, and the temperatures here are cool, but not cold. I'm thinking about my hobbies, my sketching, and just writing, and music. I definitely feel like a big part of why I'm as happy as I am is in my keeping up these crafts and hobbies. I'm in a time when my self-worth has put me way ahead of many others. The secret to happiness, to myself, is in finding something to do with my hands and my mind. When I'm having trouble finding work of some kind to do, happiness sometimes gets elusive. But having a word processor on this smart device, I can usually start looking into my language, and in wheedling over word choice selection for common emotions and types of thinking, I'll find my moods improving, and time seems to accelerate. The whole morning getting past quite quickly, and I'll have writing to show for the time. Writing can be a lot of fun. My great-granddad served as a cook in a bakery company during World War I. His first wife, an American Indian woman, had passed away while he was overseas. When Granddad returned from the war to the States, he was first in Michigan, and while he was there, he met a woman, Sarah, whose dad was an ordained minister, and who ran a general store. At any rate, Sarah and my granddad moved back to Alabama. Granddad made a little store out of a barn to sell the vegetables they grew in their field. They had good success with corn, so Granddad found a large single-cylinder flywheel gasoline engine that was as big as a modern compact car, and managed to procure a large round grinding stone. Then he made a differential, turned by the engine connected with a belt around the spindle of the stone from the flywheel, and so they had a grist mill. So, this worked, and they would sell cornmeal. Does this sound like a good story, or what? Grandmom's piano came to me after she died, along with some other things. Some old coins Granddad brought back from overseas, and an old early camera, and a collapsible brass telescope. These things made me feel special, and set me ahead of the other kids in my neighborhood. I let these things get away from me in the decade of my 20s. Now I build these audiovisual projects, and just try and stay out of people's way. My work is pretty good, but that's taking a lot for granted. You do have to live with others, and we all have our problems, including me. But our management and administrative people are so good that it doesn't matter much. After all, I only want to make sure that I never lapse in those ways. At any rate, the time here is 2:30 in the afternoon, and I've gotten my shower, and sat to try and write some more into this From Dream to Product audiobook. Outside my window, the sky is blue, with the glare of brilliant reflected sunshine illumining my room's interior. The afternoon temperature is in the low 70s, and the room is comfortable. I'll have an article, such as this one, and it will have issues built into it, from the start, and I'll have to find all of the glitches and remedy them before publishing the article. I've always been this way. Having a writing practice is such a great, wonderful blessing, that I'll always feel like I'm getting away with something highly fortuitous and providential. But the challenges of finding and fixing the bugs are an ascended man's job. Almost more than I know how to do. But I've had so much experience at this way, that I, for the most part, know what I can expect. Anger and resentment are usually only two ways that a person foils his or her own self. By his unwillingness to forgive another. I for one have lived with the pains of migraines for a long time. I've only gradually acquired the sense of an ability to somewhat envision placing my hands or arms up alongside the affected area, usually around the side of my head. This is why I've talked a lot of the sun salute, and the value of reaching hands up past the sides of my head, in mitigating tension migraines. The sense of one's own comforting hands upon the affected area seems to work the best. Well, I've been sitting here working on this article for almost an hour now. The way my mind is writing this afternoon, I seem to be having a difficulty with missteps. I think that by my remembering the sense of gratitude, and holding in my mind the memory of how I've really put some work in this year, I can't get past my pain. We've gotten 4 full-length journalistic self-help books written. The music albums I've been given most recently, starting with a Moonflower Suite, and going through Hello Sessions, have given me a wonderful above-it-all kind of feeling and mood. Then, the very good visual pen and ink art we've accomplished since late last year have completely exceeded my expectations. So, I know that a small indulgence for myself is not out of the question. Only, can I forgive myself for such? At any rate, these and other questions are in my mind, as this tired week tends to get over the hill. Thursday evening can be very pleasant, if I'll let it be. At any rate, I'll allow this writing to come to its eventual end, and bring these thoughts to a close. I'll send them along your way. Now, Greg. Postscript. The main thing that's interesting in this writing, to myself, now, is the part about the yoga visualization exercises. This is the way that I found my way, since the last of my 2023 writings. So this sure works for me. Even now, such relaxes and soothes my mind, offering hope and promise. This might be the best one could wish for. Can you also imagine a situation wherein several discrete, particular distinctions are gathered around someone's outer ear, while a lowering, antagonistic figure appears to bear down upon the whole scene, apparently intent upon some ponderous accusations, and who, thankfully, finds something better to think about? And isn't this how we might could save that world? By just being more tolerant. I would think so. Wouldn't you? At any rate, I'll wrap this writing up and send along your way now. All for now, Greg. Tilda, I think that if I had to say, it would be that my childhood was the very best part of my life. I'm so proud of the great work that both my mom and my dad did in making the most comforting, sheltering, nurturing environment you could have. My parents weren't materialistic, only believing that books and educational television programs would be my magic carpet ride. And they really were. My parents eschewed the luxuries other kids had, teaching me instead of the value of what I could make with my good mind and my hands. So, maybe this explains my almost complete life satisfaction in looking at my past work, and especially in having good creative projects going in progress at any given time. Even now, this writing is a great comfort to me, as I've somewhat lost a loved one, and feel loss and separation. But I have such a writer's voice, that I wouldn't neglect the good opportunity to again praise both of my parents for the good example they instill in myself. No one around my life today, other than my dad, I feel, and maybe a few other poor people, know as much about self-reliance as I was taught from a young age. After all, I loved educational books like encyclopedias, and good magazines like National Geographic. My mom especially told me that no good thing was beyond my abilities. My dad was demonstrably self-reliant, and built what he didn't have, furniture and decor-wise. They were both distrustful of the pulpy, tabloid culture that we saw in the world in the 1970s and 80s. Both for the sensual escapism of such media and the pointlessness of so much of celebrity culture and pop star adulation. Of course, 50 years later, such types of pursuits are still highly suspect. If you ask me, why would grown youths want to voyeuristically follow every detail of the lives of the rich and famous? Still, this world seems so lacking in substance. I think that my prolific artistic and musical output has come almost 100% because of the simple fact that I was taught that having a literary project coming along is better even than having a shiny new luxury car. The holistic values of good work added to one's bookshelf are outpace the transient value of luxury items. Fine tools and instruments have always been a very male sort of specialty. But now, everyone can be a typesetter, the printer, a recording artist, a producer, an engineer, a photographer, an editor, because there will be the right software to go with our personal computers to do that specialty. You just have to learn how to make use of the software. Our society isn't what it once was. I think it's much better today, and it's getting even better. Soon, we'll have all of the computing power we need in a pair of glasses, and we'll, I think, be able to control everything with gestures and eye movements. Someone will have it built. So, but in the 20th century, and prior, for the most part, only expert craftspeople had the fine, precise tools needed to do specialty work like that, to get those results. Now, great precision is readily had by anyone with $500 for a personal computer. Musical instruments, for instance, are usually based in principles of electricity, and have sensors, computers, or microphones, which record the finest nuance of any type of music. Producing the record used to require expensive multi-track consoles, but now, it could be done with a PC. Right in the software application you install from a disk, or download from the internet. I guess that the point I'm making is that values based in self-empowerment, literary accomplishment, and musical recording genius, as well as fine arts, like painting and sculpture, and as I said, printmaking, and many hobby pursuits, such as naturalism, and studying wild animals. The person can leave a lasting legacy in areas like these, if they have instilled in them the limitless cachet afforded by books, by writing, by painting, by recording themselves playing an instrument. You name it. Say you like photography, you can make unlimited prints with a digital camera, and do all the editing they need on your PC, and use the same technology to upload your work and share it all around the world. So, the skies really are the limit with these fine instruments and computing devices. At any rate, it's not everyone who has such strong parental role modeling going for them. So this explains my relentless tenacity at keeping on writing and producing the musical output. Most others lack ambition and motivation. Without these two, you just don't work in this area. I know that my talents in music and art are a little on the scrawny side, but my ideas in writing are where my belief in myself really is paid off. After all, it's not everyone that has a well-developed spiritual, theosophic, and literary grounding that can be written out, which knows the human mind like points of a compass, and who can be a lighthouse. Oh well, but when I think of how I'm such a poor backseat driver, I really cringe. I'll give you an example. My friend was putting groceries in the back of our van, and I went around to the side door, and got in with my groceries, and took my seat. Something in the direction my thoughts were turning in, around getting back on the road, and taking me to get my postage stamps, and doing it without delay. We nearly drove off while my lady friend was still putting groceries in the back of the van. She hollered, and I realized that my eyes, trying to catch the driver's eyes, are sometimes a lying factor. They aren't always true. The younger driver needs to know, don't listen to Greg, trying to backseat drive. You've just got to think for yourself. You've got to second-guess some. At any rate, this is just the kind of story, though, that someone will remember, because it shows how high artistic or philosophic values don't always add up to much real-world benefit, when we've got to live sanely, in a practical, materialistic world. This is why I'm in a home to start with. I've said it many times. Those who don't marry or get a permanent partner usually have to have a helping hand to ease the burdens of solitude. They might need assistance, whether they think they might or not. Last night's writing, I felt, seemed to say something really important. In particular, you can't fight justice, it always finds you. But justice in your own mind is one thing you can't escape forever. Remember the literary image of the small discreet particular gathered around the outside of someone's outer ear, while a glowering intimidating figure is seen to bear down from above, intent on making some irrefutable accusation. This is what I feel is meant by, the game you can't beat, is the game within yourself. But, while I'm mourning my loss, I know that she's gone to her well-deserved, but I think, too early, reward. She loves him. Shall we gather at the river? She told me numerous times she wanted this sung in her memorial. Well, this is getting to be to the conclusion of this essay, so I'll bring these thoughts to a logical conclusion now, and get ready to add them in with the others, and send along to you. This should nearly finish part 4 of my From Dream to Product audiobook. Until next session, all for now, Greg. Till then, getting over to our office for my morning medicine. Today, I'm glad to look at the local weather, and see that today is mostly sunny, and for a week or more into the future. This might be good news for my moods, and I should feel like staying busy. I've got to sweep the whole apartment this morning. That's about the only housework I've really got to do today, unless I can't think of something else. I'm mainly glad to get to some writing. This early start is a real good sign, I would say. I love the writing process, and I love using my talents in choosing words and ideas based on meaning, logic, style, and just the ranges of what to leave out, what to keep in, and letting myself visually relate to the words on the page, to weigh and compare. This art is fun, and God allows me to excel at it. I can't do good at that. That's what I think about it. At any rate, there's the carefully refined styles of writing, then there's the intuitive reckoning types of prognostication. When you're trusting your intuition to get you over a broken place, like a Memorial Day observance, you sometimes let the words speak for themselves, and make the fine line, just as it first comes out of your writer's hands, this usually is best, if you ask me, because, more likely than not, the spirit was just trying to be logical and rational. Democratic liberties are such that we're allowed to speak and talk, so long as it's not in a false, or misleading, or deceptive manner. It's just that on an anniversary of a difficult trouble, where no one was the winner. For instance, whatever gets said by the common sinner will likely be interpreted and grouped in with the problem, rather than the solution. This tendency makes me averse to speaking of hard topics. Me, my feet are too big. For me, my nose is too sharp. For me, my overbite is too much. For me, my hair looks like I'm trying to scare people. Getting old is hard, and there has to be room for victory. Does our culture go by youth, and vitality, and beauty, more than age and wisdom? Because of the decay associated with old age? Or for some other reason? Loss of sex appeal? Anyways, this is something to think about. I pray for my seniors. For the most part, the older people are where it's at. Only they know the way. But they're too busy living, procuring the morning coffee, when you need them more to write their wisdoms down on paper. Just observations and associations. How does your mind affiliate with a culture that's very much oriented around youth? Do you see the importance of your wisdom? How vitally important it is when voluptuous women have the public's eyes transfixed. This is what I'm most sorry about. I'm afraid, with our culture. I like to give my seniors plenty of breathing room. I don't want to make anyone mad at me for my sometimes bad ways of words coming out wrong. So I just leave them alone. They just need to know that assistance is only one phone call away. That's about the best I know how to do. At any rate, this writing is good for me, so that I think about real issues with aging and American bops. And so we can, together, work to make it better. Well, just some ideas. I'll put this writing away for a while, and get a little nap here this morning, before our lunch. At any rate, it sure is good to know enough about how to lead my life to have some writing going, and to just focus on this one task, and let trouble be trouble, and just not bother with it. If God is for us, then who can't be against us? Isn't it amazing, the way that a professional writer can't take a static time, a time of little or no good merit, and make of it something literary and great? What is this from Dream to Product audiobook had never been written, had not been started at all. I wouldn't ever want to delete such a grand and colorful audiobook. Such isn't perfect, though. I think that a reader has to see past certain human limitations. The idols of my youth, the musicians and writers who I put on such a high pedestal, had gotten stripped away, as I, the young man, considered what was really up against me. But, returning to the loves of my youth, lets me see my own work with a compassionate, understanding eye. No one knows where inspiration arises from, or where it goes. To paraphrase, I'll look back at a book just like this one, and just marvel at Spirit's carefully controlled virtuosity. I never knew what was flowing through my typist's and pianist's hands. I just received, and tried to integrate the new in with what already had been written. At any rate, I feel as if most of my objectives have been met through the writing of it. Such reflects a wide range of qualities and characteristics which appear to work well in harmony and symphony with each other. That's Spirit's graces. That's about all I know of it. I'd say such comprises my best ever work. If I couldn't say such would certainly be mediocre, wouldn't it? So, mine will express excellence, whether the other does or not. At any rate, I myself have the instruments, devices, tools and appliances, plus motivation, self-determinism, and ambition, to continue making meaningful contributions to the conversation, today, and for a while. Without the three in the middle, I'd give you all of the instruments, tools, and appliances in the world, and nothing would happen. Period. Anyways, the time is 1:15 p.m., after lunch, and I'm bent over this word processor keyboard, in generation of this concluding article for my latest part 4 of my From Dream to Product audiobook. I hope you're similarly blessed with good work to do, and will to do it. Purpose and meaning in your life is irreplaceable. Such, maybe, is what we should quest for before rank and distinction, before materialistic opulence. Maybe you'll discover this simple spiritual principle, and come to experience the fullness of living, in conscious awareness of and participation with the hosts of heaven. This is all that I know of it. I'll keep writing, if you'll keep reading. Here, I had to spell reading phonetically in order for my computer's text reader to pronounce the word correctly. Of course, this is part of a store of knowledge and experience, and understanding necessary to make these particular digital tools, instruments, devices, and appliances work at all. All of this has to be acquired, and learned only over time. Well, our skies have gotten high, hazy, white, and overcast now, and the winds are blowing the treetops about a bit. But, no rain in the forecast, for a week or more. Well, I'll wrap these ideas up, and somewhat add them in with the others now. Send along your weight. All for now, Greg.